Tov to you. I hope you had a nice Shabbos. We are now on Nun Vav Amud Beis 56b, and we're in the midst of the Gemara going through a list of people who in the Tanakh, or we'll see even post Tanakh, it seems had sinned. And that Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani says in the name of Rabbi Yonasan that they really, if you take it literally, that they sinned in exactly in the manner that we're told, that you're mistaken or not, you're nothing but mistaken. So we're about the fifth to last mid-sized line before the real wide lines. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Mashmuel. It would have been better for Shlomo HaMelech that he had served as a custodian in the house of worship of idolatry, rather than the Tanakh write about him, the Pasuk write about him, that he did bad, evil in the eyes of Hashem. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Mashmuel b'shosha nasa Shlomo es bas Paro, when Shlomo HaMelech married the daughter of Paro, she brought into the marriage a 1,000 type of song that were instruments for idolatry. And she said to him, this is how song that you sing the songs for this idol, and this is how you do it for this idol. And essentially brought in and introduced the forms of idolatry into Shlomo's household. And he did not stop her. At that moment, when he married, when Shlomo HaMelech married the daughter of Paro, Yorad Gavriel v'natzkana b'yam. Gavriel came down and put a reed into the sea. V'alav b'sirton, and it gathered dirt around it, and so it became an island. And that's how Rome was built. Essentially, when Shlomo HaMelech was king, Rome didn't exist. There was nothing there yet. And only years later did it start becoming inhabited. And so it was Shlomo HaMelech's sin that brought about the kingdom that eventually would oppress his own grandchildren and his own nation. On the day that Yeravam ben Nevat, the king of the northern kingdom of Israel, when he brought in the two idols, the golden calves, one into Beisel and one into Dan, Nivnetz Rif Echad, a small hut began to be built, and that hut became Rome. And that Italia shal Yavan, and that became Italy that imitated the Greeks, or conquered the Greeks. Another statement of Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani named Rabbi Yonasan. Anybody who says that Yoshio HaMelech sinned is mistaken. Now Yoshio HaMelech, it actually doesn't say in Tanakh that he sinned. What it does say is that he was he became king at the age of 8, and that he did tshuva and brought change to the kingdom. As it says about Yoshio, he says there's no sin there. It only says that he did the good and what was upright in the eyes of Hashem, and he followed all the path of David, his grandfather, his ancestor. Elamani Mekayim. Well, but what about what it says? There was never a king like him, Asher Shav, who returned to the path of Hashem and to do that which Hashem had commanded, right? To serve Hashem with all his heart and all his soul and all of his every being. Rather, what it means is Shekol Din Shadan Mi Ben Shmona Ad Shmona Esrei Hechzira Lehem. He did tshuva, even though he didn't know that he did a sin. From the age of 8 until the age of 18, he presided as king over some judgments. And any judgment that he did, once he turned 18, he realized, you know what? I don't know if I did anything right at that age. And so he returned the money to anybody that he took money from at that age. Maybe what he did was he just returned the law, but he didn't give anything from himself. He just took from the person he said was owed the money, and he took it back and gave it to the person that he made pay the money. No, he did it with his own wealth. He paid everyone back that he had fined or he had found guilty and made them pay fines or payments during the 10 years from when he was 8 and became king until he became 18. What's the age of 18? There are some that want to learn from here that you cannot be a dayan, a judge, until you are 18. And being 13, being an adult is not sufficient for being a judge. However, this disagrees with Rav. There's no greater Baal Tshuva. There's no one who did Tshuva better than Yoshio in his generation. And Rav said, and also one in his generation as well. Someone in his generation also did Tshuva. Umanu, and who was the one in the generation in our generation that did Tshuva? Abba, it is the person named Abba Avuda Rabbi Yirmiyah, the father of Rabbi Yirmiyah, Bar Abba. But Amri, and some say no, it's Rav Acha. It's Acha, who is the brother of Abba, Achudi Abba Avuda Rabbi Yirmiyah Bar Abba. So it's Rabbi Yirmiyah Bar Abba's uncle Acha. In any case, the Amamar Rabbi Acha, Abba Rabbi Acha, two brothers, Achi Hava, and they did Tshuva. Amar Rav Yosef said, Od Echad B'Dareinu. Rav Yosef, who was in the generations after Rav, said, actually, in our generation, there's also a great Baal Tshuva, someone who sinned and did Tshuva and became a great person. Umanu Ukvan Bar Nechemia. He is Ukvan, the son of Nechemia, Reish Galuso, became the head of the Gola, the leader of the Jewish community. Behind Nasan Tzutzisa, and he was called Nasan of the Sparks. Now, who is this? So, if you remember, a couple of days ago, we learned about Rabbi Yehuda stood in front of Shmuel, and he said to Shmuel, "This woman is crying out that she's been taken advantage of, and no one's speaking out, and you're not helping her." And he said, "Well, ha Mar Ukva, what can I do? There's Mar Ukva here. He's the one who's in charge of that." And we mentioned that Mar Ukva was a student of Shmuel. So this Mar Ukva is Ukvan ben Nechemia, and he became the Av Basin. He became the head of the Basin. He became the Reish Galusa. And Rashi tells us a story in Sanhedrin that he was pursuing a particular woman who was married, and obviously the married woman was brushing him off, and he was pursuing her, and he was getting sick, whether it's a depression or some other ailment of the heart. Rashi says he had in pursuing this woman, and it was bothering him a lot. He really wanted her. Eventually, he propositioned her. She turned him away, but she needed money, and so at some point she came to him and asked for help, and she acquiesced to his requests, but he didn't take advantage of her, and he gave her the money she needed without following through on his own desire, and did tshuva at that moment. He became well and also became a great scholar and turned his life around after that. So that's a tremendous power of tshuva, and eventually became the Av Basin and the Reish Galusa. And they called him Nasan Tzutzisa because there was this glow around him. Tosa said that wherever he went in the marketplace, it looked like there was a candle over him. Or there's a midrash that says that there was a malach that when he reached out, sparks were coming out from him to Nasan Tzutzisa. In any case, he was a great leader of that generation, and also a great Baal Tshuva. Amar Rav Yosef, Havi Yasivna B'Pirka V'Havakom Menamneim V'Chaze B'Chilma D'Kapashet Yada V'Kivlik. I was sitting, Rav Yosef said, I was sitting in the in the academy during one of the teachings, and they was dozing off, and I saw in my dreams, I saw that he reached out to heaven and they received his hand. With this, we complete the fifth parak. We begin the sixth parak. The sixth parak continues with the topic that we were talking about before, which is what may be worn in a public domain. Before it was talking about what an animal can wear in a public domain, what's considered a garment, what's considered protection, what's considered excessive, and what's a concern that it may fall off. And that only something that is actually necessary and appropriate is allowed to be a part of what the animal wears. Here we're going to come into the subject of what may a woman wear that is not a typical garment, but rather jewelry in a public domain. And as Rashi tells us, that even though it is a garment and it is not considered a masui, something that they're carrying, nevertheless, they are not allowed to carry, some things are not allowed to be worn if it is typical for someone to take this off to show it in the street, or take it off because it may not be appropriate in the street, then it is going to be a concern that they may carry. And nowadays, you may have heard this, that some people will not wear gloves outside of an eruv because the concern that when they greet someone, they're going to take their glove off to shake their hand, or it's going to get too warm and they'll take the gloves off, and then they're carrying it in a public domain. So this is the question of what may or may not be worn as tachshit, if it is typical to take it off in a public domain. So we're now Nun Zayin Amud Aleph, 57a in right at the beginning. The Mishnah begins. What can a woman walk out with? What is considered a jewelry that they're allowed to walk out with, an adornment they're allowed to walk out with? And what can she not walk out with? She should not go out with strands of wool or strands of linen or or other ribbons that are in their hair. All of these hair ribbons that were used to tie the hair are not allowed to carry. They're not allowed to go out with, and the Gemara is going to explain. And she also cannot go to the mikveh with them, because that's binding the hair together, and the water won't get in, and so it's going to be a chatzitza. It's going to be a barrier between the water and her hair, and her hair is a part of her body, and it has to be in the mikveh. Acha terape. Rather, if she has such a bow in her hair, she must loosen it so the hair can be loose and the water can get in. Also, what may she not wear on Shabbos? V'lo tefes, basically a type of tiara, and the Gemara is going to explain. V'lo sarbitin, it's another type that hangs down on the side as well. Bizman she'enon tefurin, as long as it's not sewed in to her head covering. V'lo bekibul l'reshus haram, and also not a kibul, which was some type of cap to a public domain. V'lo be'ir shel zav, and also not a golden city. It was a type of tiara as well that had the city of Yerushalayim in it. The Gemara is going to explain. V'lo bekapla, and not a choker. V'lo benizamim, and not with rings, and nose rings. V'lo betabas she'ein alechosim, and also not a ring on her finger if it doesn't have a signet on it. V'lo b'machat, also not a brooch. She'ein akuva, that doesn't have it's not a needle that has a sewing needle that has an eye in it, or rather it's just a pin. So like a brooch that may not be worn. However, if she does carry it and wear this outside in the public domain, obviously she's not going to be transgressing a Torah prohibition, because it is a garment, it's an adornment. It's just that the concern is she may take it off to show. So Gemara says, where does this line of going to the mikveh and loosening the ribbon in the hair come into our subject matter? We're in the middle of Hilchah Shabbos and what you can carry or what can you wear and not wear in a public domain, and all of a sudden you throw in the halacha of mikveh. What shaychus? What's the connection? Man l'char shemei, who mentioned it? Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak, Amar Rabbi Bar Abula, in the name of Rabbi Abula, he said, Ma tam kamar. The Mishnah is actually explaining the reason for the previous halacha. Ma tam letetz isha lebechute tzemav lebechute pishtan. Why shouldn't a woman walk out with wool and linen ribbon in her hair? Since on a weekday she's not allowed to go to the mikveh with that, because if she goes to the mikveh, it's going to be chatzitza and she's going to have to take it out of her hair or loosen it. And since therefore on a weekday she's not allowed to go to the mikveh that way, therefore on Shabbos she can't go out with it either. Why? Because perhaps there will be a mikveh appointment. She's going to have to go to the mikveh, shel mitzvah, for a mitzvah. And she's going to untie it in her hair. She's going to carry it back home. And that's the problem. She's going to walk 4 cubits, 4 amos in Rosh Hashanah. So the concern is that if she is allowed to wear this on Shabbos, not that she's going to take it out of her hair and show it to her friend, like some of the other things we'll see, but rather the reason is she may need to go to the mikveh. And if she goes to the mikveh, we saw that you have to loosen it because otherwise the water won't get in. And she's going to take it out of her hair in order to go to the mikveh. And on the way home, she's going to carry it. And as a result, she will have carried in a public domain. And therefore, it's going to be transgress. She will transgress. And as such, Chazal said, don't wear it. Don't wear it so that this doesn't happen on Shabbos. Rav Kahana asked Rav, Tichi Chalil Tamai. What about, they used to have these woven threads that were sort of like a lanyard, and they were a woven, almost like a twine, and the water it can't really get it can't get very tight around the hair, so the water can perhaps get into the hair. Something like that is allowed to be worn on Shabbos or not? Amalei arika amris kol she'arig legazru. No, you're talking about something woven. If it's woven, the Chachamim did not make a gzeira on it, as I just mentioned, because the water can get through. Right? Because it's never so tight and the water can get through. Itmar nami, indeed, we learned that way. Amar Rav Huna bered of Rishua. Rav Huna, the son of Rishua, said, Kol shu arig legazru. Anything woven like that is not a concern. The Chazal did not make a gzeira on it. Rav Huna bered of Rishua, Chazinu la'achvasai d'lekapten alayu. Some say that what Rishua said was, or Rav Huna bered of Rishua said was, I saw my sisters go and when they were bathing, and they were not concerned with taking a bath, a hot bath, with this in their hair. Now, if the water wouldn't get into their hair well, then because it was so tight, then they would take it out before they bathe. And the fact that they didn't take it out before they bathe tells me that the water gets in, and it's not so tight. And if on a regular day they didn't mind bathing with this in their hair, that means it's not a chatzitza even for mikvah, because the water can get in, and therefore we're not concerned that they're going to take it off on Shabbos. Well, we have two statements in the name of Rav Huna bered of Rishua. Was it because anything that's woven is not a problem, or because I watched my sisters and I saw that they're not concerned with taking this out of their hair for bathing, so I know that it's not a chatzitza. So what's the difference? What about if it is dirty? So if you say the reason is because if it's woven, the water can get in and it's not a concern. Well, this is also woven, the water can get in and it's not a concern. However, if the reasoning is because the woman may want to take it out because they mind that it's there, and over here they don't mind. Here they don't mind on account of that the water, their hair washes well. Okay, but that's only true if it's not dirty. Kivan the tanifan, but when it is dirty, mikbat kapti alayu. For sure they want it out, because if the band on their hair, this woven twine, is dirty, then they wash their hair. Now their hair is going to get dirty from the dirty band. So for sure they're going to take it out, and therefore there's it will be a problem on Chatzitza, one version, Rashi, or at least there'll be a problem on Shabbos because they may take it off before they wash their hair, and therefore they're going to carry it back home. In any case, in our Mishnah, we had these three things that they would wear in their hair, that they're not allowed, these bands, these ribbons that they cannot walk out in the public domain with them, because they may take them off if they were going to the mikvah and carry it back home. Tanan Hasem, we learned for Elu Chotze Ba'adam. So the Mishnah says in the end of mikvos, it has a list of chatzitza, things that are a barrier in toveling, and it has vessels and the handles of vessels, whether the handle is a part of it or not. And in there, it also makes the comparison to humans and what's a chatzitza for humans. And it says, Ve'elu chotzim ba'adam, chutei tzemer v'chutei pishtim v'aratzur sheberosh habanas. What's a chatzitza for humans? These bows that are in their hair, whether it's of linen or wool, or these leather bows, these straps, these ribbons. Rabbi Yehuda Omer shel tzemer shel sar ein chatzitza. However, Rabbi Yehuda says wool and bands that are made of hair itself are ein chatzitza, are not going to be chatzitza. Because the water can get through the wool ribbon, and the water can get through hair strands. So we have the first Tana that says that these are going to be a chatzitza, and Rabbi Yehuda says that it's not going to be a chatzitza. At least he disagrees in regards to wool and hair. Amar Rav Huna v'kulam merashi abana shani, and all this is talk about in the head hair of girls. Maskav Rav Yosef limute mai, as opposed to what? Elaim limute the tzavar. Are you talking about? But it can't be a choker as a belt, a strand, a ribbon around her neck. Udamai. What were you talking about? Elaim limute the tzemer. Are you saying that wool cannot be a choker? Hashta rachal gabe kosher chotzitz. Rachal gabe rachmi baya. Well, if you tell me that you can't have a wool which is soft on your hair, which is harder, it's dense, for sure you can't have it against something soft like your neck, because your neck is softer and for sure it's going to cling more. So you must be talking about flax, linen, which is a much stiffer material. Well then, if you tell me a stiff material against hair, which is a stiff material, yet the ribbon is going to be tight enough that it's going to count as a barrier between the water and the water can't get in, for sure against your neck, when I have something like linen, which is firm, against the neck, which is soft, for sure the neck will take the shape of the linen, and it'll and if it's that tight, it will be a barrier. No, of course we're talking about the neck, and this is the reason. Because she'll tighten it around the hair to keep the hair in place, but she won't tighten it around her neck because she wants to be able to breathe. Now, even though it's called a choker, but not, it's only called a choker. It doesn't actually have to choke them. She wants to live. I know what you're thinking, that women do a lot of painful things for beauty, so choking is one of them, but they still need to be able to breathe. So in any case, so that's why it's only in the hair, but on the neck, obviously it's going to be loose enough to be able to breathe, and therefore it's loose enough for the water to come in. So Abaye challenged that. We learn that women can walk out on Shabbos, or young maidens can walk out on Shabbos with a strand of thread through their ear. So they have a earring, a piercing, and they want to maintain the hole, that it stays open, but they're not wearing their earrings, so they would wear a thread through it to keep it open. But they can't wear rope around their neck. But if you tell me that women don't choke themselves anyhow, so then what's the reason? Why can't they? Why shouldn't they walk around with their chavakin on their with these tight belts, if you would, around their neck? Amar Ravina. So now we turn the page. Ravina explains the katla askina. We're talking about something that they call the katla. which is not a great name. It means the murderer. But basically, women used to wear this sort of like a neck collar that was an adornment and something they would wear in front, sort of a ruffle collar on the front of them, and the part that went around the neck was made to be very tight so that it would push out some of their neck and make them look a little fuller. The she would indeed choke herself with that and was really tight because she wanted to look like she was fuller, more fleshy, and that was considered beautiful. And so they wanted to do that, and that's what we're talking about. That she can't walk out with that because that's too tight, and again, that's something that may end up being she may end up taking off. Now Tues points out that if it's there for beauty and she won't want to take it off on account of that, she wants the desired look of looking so full. So must be, Tues says, like a chatzitza, that since the water can't get through that, so that would be an issue like we were talking about earlier. Rabbi Yehuda, however, says that wool and wool ribbon and strands of hair that are used to tie the hair together are going to be permissible to be worn in the mikveh. They're not a chatzitza, they're not a barrier because the water can get through it. Amar Rav Yosef Amar Yehuda Mashmuel Halachik Rabbi Yehuda b'chutei sar. So Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel that the halacha is indeed like Rabbi Yehuda, that a woman is allowed to wear this, have other hair strands to tie their bow as a bow in their pony in order to keep the hair together, and it's not going to be a barrier for chatzitza for mikvah. Amalei Abaya halacha michlada pligi. Wait. By the fact that you say that the halach is like Rabbi Yehuda, that means that the first opinion, the Tanna Kama, disagreed about that. But if you look at it, he actually didn't mention hair at all. He mentioned and he said, these are a chatzitza. Wool bows, linen bows, ritzuos, which would be leather, some type of ribbon. And Rabbi Yehuda is the one that says that wool and hair are okay. But the Tanna Kama never said that hair was not okay. So why you say the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, which indicates that the Tanna Kama disagreed? There was no argument about that. And if you're going to tell me, well, then why did he mention hair? If everybody agrees to that, why did he mention it? He should have just said that the wool is okay. No, that's not a question. Dilma Keshem Ka'amar. He's trying to compare them and say, just like just as we know, and you agree to me that hair is not a chatzitza because the water can get through it. So admit to me the same with wool, and therefore there's no evidence from this brisa that from the Mishnah that Rabbi Yehuda disagreed at all in regards to that, and he may may be the opinion of both the Tanna Kama and Rabbi Yehuda that hair is not a chatzitza. And if she tied her hair with other strands of hair. Itmar, indeed it was said, Amar Nachman and Mashmuel, that Rav Nachman said in the name of Shmuel, that Rav Nachman quoted Shmuel as saying that the Chachamim never disagreed in regards to hair, and that is the halacha on account of not that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda on that in regards to that, but rather no one ever disagreed in that. Tanya Namehachin, indeed we have a brisa that way. Chutei tzemer, chotzitzin, chutei se'ar ein chotzitzin. Hair strands are not going to be chatzitza. Only wool strands are going to be chatzitza. Now, the Gemara analyzes. Who's the one that said that wool is a chatzitza? Not Rabbi Yehuda. It's the Tanna Kama. It's the first opinion that said that wool is a chatzitza, is going to be a barrier. And yet it says that hair is not. So then it's clear that way. Our Mishnah also indicates that because later on we're going to see it says that a woman is allowed to go out with strands, both of her own hair, or even of somebody else's hair. So she either cut off her own hair and made some bow out of that, or she took somebody else's hair and took it and made a bow. So either one. I see somebody just asked a question, and we're talking about her own hair or somebody else's. Either one, as we'll see soon, she can wear her own hair and she can wear somebody else's hair. Samani, whose opinion is that in our Mishnah that says that she can wear the strands of hair? Ilema Rabbi Yehuda, is it the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda? Can't be, because then even wool is allowed to be worn because he doesn't hold that's a chatzitza. Ella lav rabbanan. It must be the opinion of Rabbanan, which concurs with, which is the conclusion of our Mishnah, because our Mishnah says that she cannot wear the wool strands, these wool ribbons, because they are a barrier and you have to loosen them. And since you loosen them, she may loosen them on Shabbos and carry them home. And yet it says that hair strands are not going to be a problem. So we see that there's no disagreement in regards to hair strands. Shmamina, indeed, that's a good proof. And also, she cannot go out with a tetefes. So what is that? My tetefes. Amar Rav Yosef, chumrusa de katifta. He said it was some sort of head ribbon that would be worn as to ward off an evil eye. Amalei Abaye. So Abaye said, well, that should be like a kameya, an amulet, which we will see. We saw a little bit about before. We'll see more that if it's a known to work amulet, that people have tried this multiple times from this scribe or this particular amulet, and it works. So therefore, it may be worn on Shabbos because then it's just an adornment. It's a garment, and so too this ribbon being worn to ward off the evil eye is also a garment in that way. Elam Amar Rav Yehuda. So rather, Rav Yehuda said in the name of Abaya, Meshmed Abaya, Apuzainu. This is something called Apuzainu, which is some sort of tzitz, some sort of tiara, a head plate, a forehead plate, made of gold. Tani nami hachi, indeed, we learned similar to that. Yotze isha b'sevacha hamazuheves ubetetefes ubesarvitin akavuyim ba. She can walk out with. They would wear a net cap over their hair, and over that some sort of a head covering. So that net it can be that's golden can be worn. And tetefes and a sarbitin, which are bound to it, and she can wear it with these tetefes, this tiara or this golden plate, or sarvitin, which is basically a necklace around the head that had charms hanging down the sides to the cheeks. If you've seen North African Jewish brides or Yemenite Jewish brides, you've seen this kind of jewelry that looks like a jeweled headband, and then some gems and jewels hanging off the side. That's what it seems this sarvitin is. Ezu tetefes, vezu sarvitin. Which are the tetefes and which are the sarvitin? The tetefes is the golden plate that goes from ear to ear. So that's the band, like a tiara or something that goes across the upper forehead. And sarbitin amagia lechia, and the sarbitin are these gems that hang down, that comes down to her cheeks. Amar Avuna, the poor people, they make them out of cloth, out of colored ribbons. Ashira, and the rich people, they make them out of gold and silver. In any case, so these are beautiful jewelry. So if it's attached to the net that's on her head, which she's not going to take off in the street, so then she can wear it in public. However, if it's a separate piece, then she's going to meet her friend and take it off to show her the new piece she has and carry it in the street, and that's why you're not allowed to wear it. V'lo b'kavul, also not a kavul. So what is a kavul? I don't know what this kavul is. E kavula de avda, is it some sort of garment, a patch, that some sort of item that a band, that a slave would wear to indicate that he was a servant? Aval kipa shel tzemer shabedami, but if you had a wool cap that the woman would wear, that would be fine, because she wouldn't take it off in the street because that would uncover her head. Dilma, or perhaps kipa shel tzematanan, or our Mishnah is talking about a kavla means the head covering, the cap, and nevertheless it's not allowed to be worn. V'kolshkein kavla d'avdam, for sure the band that a slave would wear would be prohibited. It seems correct to say that our Mishnah is talking about the wool cap that the woman would wear, and nevertheless it's prohibited to go out with it in a public domain, even though that she's not likely to take it off. Nevertheless, it's going to be prohibited on account of that it is an adornment and she may take it off. And indeed, we learn that a woman is allowed to go out with this kavul, which seems a cap, and a istama, which Gemara is going to explain, into the courtyard. She can go into the courtyard that way, but not into a public domain. So you see that even though that some of these are prohibited, even into the courtyard, but the kavul, she can go into the courtyard, but not into public domain, which tells us that the prohibition of wearing this kavul in a public domain is talking about even the cap that a woman would wear. Now, Rav Shimon and Elazar af kavul u'shosarabim. Even a kavul is allowed to be worn in a public domain, as opposed to our Mishnah, which said she may not wear it. She's allowed to wear it. Klala Rav Shimon and Elazar, because Rav Shimon and Elazar said a general rule. He said, "Kol shu lamata min asivcha yotzeba, kol she'ein lamala min asivcha yotzeba." It depends. Anything that's below the netting, this net I said that they wear over their head, that would be prohibited to go out. Anything that you would wear above it is prohibited. You can wear anything below it because she's not going to take that off. But you can't wear anything above it because that she would take off. And tomorrow we'll continue with this idea of what is this istamia and other things that relate to istamia and wearing outside in a public domain. Shavua Tov. Thank you very much for joining.